Hi, I'm Crystal McDonough with McDonough Law Group, and today I'm here with Donna Bacalor. Donna is a corporate and business attorney with McDonough Law Group, and she has been working with me on trying to understand this new Corporate Transparency Act that took effect January 1st. So this is going to impact all business owners. It's going to really have far-reaching effects across the entire country. So we thought it would be useful to all of you to provide some background information and maybe some examples so that you can understand it better and have a better idea of what you need to do to stay in compliance. So Donna, first of all, what is the Corporate Transparency Act?
Well, the Corporate Transparency Act, which went into effect January 1st, 2024, is also known as the CTA for short. And it was enacted by Congress in order to enhance transparency in both domestic and foreign business ownerships, primarily to prevent money laundering, tax fraud, and other illegal type business activities. So as long as your business is not doing anything illegal, there's really nothing to be afraid of regarding complying with this act.
Okay, so basically, the way I understand it is this is a new federal database for all business owners that all business owners and businesses have to file into. So we're used to filing with each state, and you've got compliance that you've got to file with each state. But now we've got this federal requirement on top of the state. Is that how I understand? Does that sound right?
That's accurate. And that allows the federal government to also monitor the businesses within each state on top of the state government.
Oh,
And the federal agency that is going to be regulating this website and registration and whatnot is called the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is why the acronym that people are calling this is FinCEN. And FinCEN is part of the United States Treasury Department.
okay. So FinCEN, Financial Crimes Department, under the US Treasury, is going to hold this massive database of all of the businesses and business owners and filers for each state, basically.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So big question. What entities, what businesses have to file with FinCEN?
Pretty much most businesses will have to file with FinCEN. As far
Okay.
as domestic entities, corporations will have to file, LLCs will have to file, and any type of business that was created in any state by filing a document with the Secretary of State or a similar office will be required to report. In
Okay.
addition to domestic businesses, foreign businesses, meaning those that are made in other countries but are registered to do business in the United States, will also need to report. So those foreign entities that filed anything with the Secretary of State saying you can do business in the US, they're going to be required to report as well.
So basically, if you own a business and it's registered with the state, you have to file.
Pretty much, yes. There are approximately, I believe, 23 exceptions.
Oh,
However, those exceptions don't apply to the normal small business type entities that most of us are involved with. Those exceptions apply to things like insurance companies, public utilities, and so on. So I would expect that most small businesses that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are not included in those 23 exceptions. That would have to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But I would say generally your small businesses are not fitting into those exceptions.
okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm imagining that a lot of business owners are kind of wondering, so when do I have to file this?
And interesting enough, that depends. Of course, the government couldn't make it super easy and make it simple and have one deadline. So
Never.
if your entity was created before January 1st, 2024, you
Okay,
have
so
until the
last year or before?
correct. Then you have till the end of 2024 to report. If your entity was created after January 1st, 2024, meaning just recently,
Mhm.
then you'll have 90 days after the creation of your entity to report. So it's important that you know the date that the entity was created. And
Okay.
lastly, because they wanted to make it even more complicated, if your entity will be created after January 1st, 2025, then you're only going to have 30 days to report following the creation of the entity. And I just want to clarify, when I say days, they're talking about calendar days, not business days. So make sure you mind your counting when you're counting the days if you are a newly created entity.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful to know that. So I think a lot of business owners I've talked to have been very worried about, okay, I know this takes effect January 1st, 2024, which we formed our business a couple of years ago. What do we have to do? So this at least buys them businesses or previously formed before 2024. They've got a year at least to comply. So that's helpful.
Yes, they have some breathing room.
That's good.
And
And with so many businesses having to file, I can imagine that that's going to be a lot of filing done in the next year.
yes, and I guess we'll see with their website, how overwhelmed it gets, et cetera, et cetera. And that way, at least you're not trying to file on one day and it's the last day possible, which I would not recommend waiting for.
Right.
And then the website is down or there's too many people on or whatnot. So it at least gives the website and FinCEN some time to like work out the kinks.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. What gets reported then? What do we actually report? What does a company report?
Well, of course, once again, that depends. Um, we'll start with what every entity must report.
Okay.
If you are required as a company to report, you must report company information. Company information will be things like the legal name, the trade name, the address, the jurisdiction and date that the entity was created, and your taxpayer ID number that is also going to be required to be reported. So you need
Okay.
to have all that information with you when you go online to start your reporting. The next thing that will have to be reported by all entities would be beneficial owners. And by beneficial owner, they mean an individual or more than one who directly or indirectly owns or controls part of the company. And that individual will have to report certain information about themselves.
Okay.
Their name, their address, and some other information. I believe they would also be required to provide a driver's license number or a passport number.
Okay.
And the last bit of information does not need to be reported by everyone. The last bit of information, which is called company applicant information,
Oh,
only needs to be reported by entities that are created after January 1st, 2024.
okay.
So for anyone who has an old company, you're done reporting after you report those two basic parts of information that I just talked about.
Okay.
However, if you're a new company, the government is going to report, strike that, the government is going to require that you report the company applicant. And the company applicant is the person who directly filed or registered the company with the Secretary of State and the person that was responsible for directing or controlling the filing. So the company applicant may be more than one person. However, as I said, if you're an old company prior to January 1st, 2024, you're good. It's the new companies that need to deal with part 3, unfortunately.
Okay. So what if a company forgets to file, doesn't file, what are the penalties?
Well, right now, the way that the act reads, that noncompliance with this act may result in fines up to $10,000 a day.
Whoa.
Yes, and criminal penalties up to 2 years in prison. I guess we would really have to see as time goes on how that plays out, but that is what is written into the act.
Okay.
So that's a
So
possibility.
if you own a company, then you need to comply because you don't want to get hit with these penalties. So the good news is for all of you listening, our law firm, Donna, myself, and others in our firm are going to be doing these filings with FinCEN on behalf of our clients and on behalf of other companies. So we are going to be registered with FinCEN so that we can help companies with these filings, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, I imagine, from business owners, because we've kind of run through the high level here of what this is, but like you said, there's 23 exceptions to whether or not companies have to file or not. There's all kinds of details about beneficial owners and persons who have a controlling interest or some sort of control over a company, who has to be included in the filing. There's a lot of details, a lot more details that go into this than just what we've kind of covered here. So I imagine that companies are going to want some help and some guidance as they go through this process.
And even the newly created companies, the company applicant, who is that? Is it my accountant? Is it my law firm? Is it me? Is it my wife? Is it my business partner? Those are all little nuances that
Mhm.
every company will have to deal with in a different way, depending on the creation and the ownership and who files the documents and who directs whom to file whatnot. So I think that's also has to be taken on a case by case basis.
Okay. So bottom line, you probably need to get some advice from your attorney, and maybe your CPA, depending on what your questions are, and and take it from there, it looks like. So let's run through a couple of examples. Do you have some examples for us, Donna, that we can look at?
Sure. So I guess my first question would be, what if I, as company one, was registered in Wyoming in 2019, and
Okay.
I'm owned by three different people, one third each? What, Crystal, would you recommend that we do in that situation? And
Okay.
when do we have to do, and when do we have to do it by? More
Okay.
importantly.
Okay, so in this example, if the company was registered in Wyoming in 2019, um, then from the timeline, they wouldn't have to report until the end of 2024. So at some point during the year of 2024, that company would need to file their report with FinCEN. And there's three owners, so each of the owners information would need to be reported as beneficial owners. And then there may be some additional details about each owner that has to be reported, like a driver's license or a passport and some other identifying information about the company and the owners, like you had mentioned before. But that's pretty much it, I think, for that scenario.
Well, they would also have to report their company information,
Yeah, absolutely.
when their company was created, et cetera, et cetera. But as you pointed out, that entity would not have to deal with reporting the company applicants because they were pre 2024.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right, well, what's another example?
So our next example that I'm thinking of, we have company two, which is also an LLC. It
Okay,
was it was registered in Colorado, January 3rd, 2024. It only has one owner, 100% owner,
okay.
and the law firm filed the articles of incorporation. So what do we have to do with that one, do you think?
Okay, for that one, if they filed January 3rd, the act went into effect January 4th. So that means they have to comply with the filing requirements for for the 2024 year, they would have 90 days to file all the company information. There's only one owner, so the one owner would have to file their information. And then if the law firm filed the articles of organization with the Secretary of State, then the law firm's information also has to be provided to FinCEN in that reporting because the law firm actually did the filing of the articles of organization.
Yeah, so the law firm also is a company applicant, perhaps in addition to the owner, but that just depends on how that whole original filing with the Secretary of State was directed.
Okay, so let's talk about changes because changes happen in companies. People sell their companies, people bring on investors or new owners. Sometimes, you know, bad things happen, and sometimes companies have to be closed, or maybe an owner passes away unexpectedly. What happens when changes occur? What do we have to do then?
So if a change occurs, like a new owner takes over, some new shares are sold to somebody new who's a controlling person, the company then has 30 days to update the report with FinCEN. And this is 30 days after the date when the change occurred. I would suspect, because the other deadlines are calendar days, that these are calendar days as well. But we would have to look carefully at the act to make that determination.
Okay.
I anticipate, like I said, as this act moves forward, different things will be clarified, questions will be asked, the empty spaces will be filled. So we will learn more information as we move on.
Okay.
If a beneficial owner dies, currently the act reads that you have 30 days after the estate is settled to report to FinCEN. And that could be a long time, just depending on the situation as well. But I would say, if you want to be safe, I would use the 30 calendar days at the moment until that's clarified.
Okay, that's really good information because I know a lot of business owners are overwhelmed. I've heard from a number of business owners, and they're just they're frustrated because they don't exactly know what they have to report, or who they report to, or what information they need to gather beforehand. It feels a bit daunting for business owners to comply with this. So it's good to know that existing businesses have some time to gather this information and to comply and get their filings made. And we're here to help. So if you've got questions, Donna is going to be doing consultations. Others in our firm are doing consultations with businesses. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to visit with you and talk to you and go through your specific situation and let you know what part of these rules apply to you and what you need to do to make sure you're in compliance. We are also going to be doing the FinCEN filings for companies on behalf of companies. So if you need help with that piece of it and you'd like us to assist you, let us know. We're going to continue working with our new businesses as they're forming new businesses or new entities. We'll continue to do that as usual, as we have been. We'll be doing the FinCEN filing and reporting along with the new business filings that we do. So we're here. Let us know how we can help. All of our contact information will be on the screen. And also, please keep in mind that none of this discussion is business advice. This is meant for educational purposes only. Your situation is unique to you. This is just some general information about the new Corporate Transparency Act. And we hope that this has been informative and maybe helped cleared up some things for you.